Hi, Renee Goldsberry.
Christine Swanson.
How's it going?
It's better now. Always good to see your face and hear your voice.
Same here. Same
When you
here.
ask me to show up somewhere, what do I do if I'm smart
And gracious and
and
gracious.
gracious? I show up and say, yes, where? What time? Where do I go? What are we doing?
My friend Chaz Ebert, who just invited us to screen our film at Ebert Fest
Amazing.
and awarded us with a golden thumb. And she asked me back to have a conversation with you about art. We can definitely talk about our film that we did together called Albany Road and anything we want to talk about. Okay.
Lovely. So
Okay.
that's what we would be doing anyway.
I know.
We
I
love
know.
to talk.
That's right. We just happen to be recording it.
We just happen to be recording it on
Okay.
Zoom with our
So,
glasses on.
so
We didn't used to, when we met, we didn't wear
we
glasses.
sure did not.
What
We sure
happens
did
when you've
not.
had some experience? You need to see it better.
Amen. I was auditioning glasses, so these are not my strongest, but I do see you. Well, here 2 and 3. So we're up there, right? So in light of the fact that we started out together not wearing glasses,
How
I
many
think
years ago? Decades ago. It was
well, I look
it
at
was
I
the
use
previous
Pulse,
century,
so almost 24 years ago,
more than.
maybe 25, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was more than I know because I remember being in my spirit an actor. I remember having the affirmation of having been someone that started a movie when the millennial hit.
Oh, you were thinking about that in that way, huh?
I just, like you look back and you remember different seasons of your life, and I think one very distinct new chapter in my life was this person that was an actor that had had this great experience of starring in a movie. And by that I'm talking about your film All About You, which is when I met you walking into an audition
Mm-hmm.
for All About You. I was a girl that had a couple of degrees and a lot of experience acting in the theater and experience on television, but not with any substantial role.
Mm-hmm.
And you were crazy enough, some might call it, I don't know, but you took a huge risk by casting me as the lead in your first feature
Mm-hmm.
film.
Mm-hmm.
So there were two novices,
Mm-hmm.
number one on the call sheet and just number one, period.
Mm-hmm.
You. Um, and your beautiful and very intelligent husband, Michael Swanson, who produced it, allowed you to cast me in that movie. And that was the beginning of so much.
Talk about the journey from then to now, and what do you feel has been your greatest lesson and your greatest gift?
Is that one question or seven? How many questions?
It's
How
three.
many questions is that?
Lesson,
Talk
what's
about
your
this,
greatest
then this, and lastly,
lesson, gift, and hurdle?
I um, I was actually just doing a speech where I was accepting an award virtually on a video. It's a long story, but I was talking about living in a time where I didn't just starting my career and thinking I have to compartmentalize what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm either going to be a theatrical actress on the stage or be a film actor or a singer. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I hadn't figured that out. I just know that I was living in Los Angeles and I was trying to get a record deal. And I had a degree in music theater from Carnegie Mellon University. I had gone back to school for vocal jazz because somebody told me that nobody would come see a movie that I was in. Actually, that's not, no one would buy an album that I put out if I was famous for being an actor. But
Mm-hmm.
if I was famous for being a singer, like a recording artist, like everybody would go see Whitney Houston in a movie, but nobody would buy my album if I was famous for being an actor. And so I was living in Los Angeles when I met you. I'd stopped doing theater. I'd stopped auditioning for big, television shows and movies because I was trying to get into Lilith Fair.
Mm-hmm.
I was like writing music and I was trying to do that. Not that I didn't want to do everything, but because I wanted to have an opportunity to do all of them, and I thought that was the path.
Mm.
And in the middle of it, I had an audition to go and be to audition for your movie All About You, and it was the lead, and you gave me the part, and that was a wrench, a great wrench.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, oh, I was trying to do this other thing, but yeah, I'm an actor,
Mm-hmm.
and let me figure this out. So I remember before I showed up on the set to be the lead in this film, and not just like a woman lead. Like a lot of times women are in a movie and we're like the lead woman, but really we're supporting the protagonist. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your movies, God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
The woman is the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
woman has the journey, and this was this one role of a lifetime. And I went to see a very renowned, somebody gave me an acting coach just to see, to make sure that I didn't blow it. And I went into this acting, his house for this acting coaching session. And I said, well, I'm not sure that I know what I'm doing, but let me show you. I'm going to say some of these lines for you. And he said, and I said them, and he said, first of all, never again say that you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
At least promise me you're not going to show up on that set and say, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. Because these people have invested a tremendous amount of not only faith, but money in you.
Mm-hmm.
And no one needs to be worried about you.
Mm-hmm.
So never say that again.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. And number two, he said, I believe everything you just said. I can see when I watch All About You so many years, decades later, I can see, I believe myself, which is a big thing. You wouldn't have let me get away with anything if you didn't believe me. I remember one random scene that we shot very late. It's the scene where I'm talking to Brian. Teron Brooks plays Brian, and we're sitting in a movie theater, and I look at him. I can't remember what I'm saying, but it was like one of the last scenes we shot, and I am so like I'm talking to you right now.
Wow.
I'm so zen, relaxed, at peace. There's chaos all around. That's the thing about shooting a movie, I learned. There is chaos all around you. It is a battleground, it is a war. But between action and cut, you have to put it all out and just be in this one moment, because nobody is going to care when they watch the movie. There's no justification for you not being present in that moment. And you gave me the gift of figuring that out. To be the lead in this movie. I remember that moment so clearly. That's where I started from. And I don't feel tremendously different. I got to do a lot of things after that. I got to star in a soap opera for many years. I say that outside of having done a lot of other small parts, because I think it's the responsibility, it's the weight of a character that gives you the greatest opportunity to grow. It is really hard to come into any scene with 2 lines. For me, to this day, 40 years later, I'm exaggerating, but it's hard. That's actually hardest. But when you have all of that to do, and all of those people like offset trying to make it work, you can go from 0 to 60. You can learn so much. So I had so many experiences since then where I've learned so much. And I don't know that there are lessons that are new that I hadn't learned on that set so many years ago. So now jump to being in Albany Road last winter with you. We were reunited and it felt so good. I guess it's just always a challenge to make sure that I'm the most responsible about what I'm doing. There's more people invested in it now since I've met you. I have a husband and 2 children. I've always felt like, oh my gosh, should I do this? Is this the right thing to do? Because I don't have a tremendous amount of control as an actor about what happens to the thing and where it goes and how it does.
Yeah.
And so there's a pressure involved in trying to choose wisely, to make sure that it's, I'm going to invest in something that I think will be a light in the world and will yield something positive.
Yeah, I love listening to your perspective, and it makes me chuckle because the challenges were real. The love that we have for each other was real.
Is real.
It's real, and it's always a blessing to just play in that sandbox again, and it's one of the things I just never will take for granted, because
Yeah.
it's between us, so few and far between. And like, and how annoying was I, like, for the last 23 years? I'm like, Renee, you're a lead. Why aren't you doing more lead roles? And I'm just badgering you, but the struggle's real in terms
Yeah.
of roles that are available for you, that one, you can sink your teeth into, and
Well,
two, that are getting made, you know?
I left a soap opera. I was on the soap opera One Life to Live for 4 years. It was incredible to be a part of it. It was a great job. It was fame. It was a level of fame that I had never had.
Mm.
And the best actors in the world I was working with. I mean, just tremendous actors. And I was in New York City, so I had a day job. The soap opera was my day job while I did Broadway at night. Like, what a pinch yourself experience. I got to be in all these Rent and The Color Purple and all of these shows while I was doing the soap opera. So that was amazing. So why leave that job? You know,
Mm.
why leave it? And I left it because I wanted to tell, I just wanted to tell the best stories. But I didn't want to sign another 4-year contract to be on a show where I didn't feel like their point was, let's tell the best story. Let's be the best storytellers. Let's tell a story to the highest common denominator. And
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to take a chance on myself and see if I get to tell a better story. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I got to be in Hamilton. Do you know what I mean? I got to be in the Good People, like this awesome
Yeah.
play. I got to be in Albany Road. I get to be in Girls Five Eva. Like, I get to be in these shows written by tremendous people. And that seems like an embarrassment of riches, but that's also a lot of years in between of all those things,
Yeah.
of trying to make sure, if I actually got a job, because that's the biggest hurdle. And then the second one, it's something that is that thing I left that soap opera for, like a great story. And what's
Yeah.
worked for me is aligning myself with storytellers I believe in, and you're one of them.
I went to NYU Film School because all the great independent filmmakers went there, and I wanted to be one of them. And so it's part of the training, is when you're trained as a guerrilla filmmaker, you can never undo that training. That's why, like, chaos doesn't scare me. What scares me is the lack of chaos. It's counterintuitive, but most times when there's a lack of chaos, intuitively I'm like, this show ain't no good. As an independent filmmaker, there's great autonomy. And I think creatively, all of us on some level are control freaks. And being an independent filmmaker gives you a tremendous amount of control that allows you to maximize your creativity to the umpteenth power. And you can't, if it don't work, you can't blame nobody but yourself. And
Right.
I accept that challenge, you know? So I'm always competing with myself, you know? And you can't compete with yourself when you're answering to other people. So
Hmm.
that's why I identify
Yeah,
most.
because there you don't you get yeah you can't even take
I've
you
done
don't have the
movies.
responsibility to make the decisions to, yeah,
Yes.
for the project to feel like it's yours.
Yeah, and if it's groupthink, then at a certain point I have to understand I'm working in service to the vision of others. And I can do that, and I do that really, really well, actually, especially to the highest bidder. But there's nothing like you, the script, and your vision, and a stopwatch. Go. And I just love to see what I'm made of, and then I love to see how God's going to show up.
Hmm.
Because it's not just me. Like, a lot of what I do is predicated in a great belief system that I have, one in myself, but really in God, in such a way where I'm like, oh, I wonder what God's going to do. And I kid you not, that's the game that I play in my head all the time. And I can only do that. Well, I do that primarily as an indie filmmaker, but I do that on every show that I work on. It's like, Lord, what you gonna do today? You know?
I know. I think that part of you that is that, I mean, I should say, I've heard you use the word often, disruptor,
Yes.
about yourself, right? Well, tell us what you mean by that.
Well, do I call myself that, or do
I
others?
remember one day you called me, you were like, I figured it out. I'm a disruptor. That's what I am. I'm a disruptor. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm naturally contrarian. And I know you have pulled me off some ledges where I'm like, no. And you're like, well, let's listen to the idea, you know, because I'm just wired that way. But thankfully, as I've aged and wisdom has kicked in, it's in maturity. It's really like I love the best idea, and it doesn't have to come from me. Um,
You've always been that way, I think. But I will say, I've benefited greatly from that part of you that is a contrarian, because I don't think anybody would have. I mean, I just think you're attracted to, like you said, a challenge, and to cast some girl that just walked in to your room when you have, your audition room, when you have a certain amount of money given by people who you felt very responsible to be, stewarding over it
yeah,
appropriately. And to
yeah,
cast me when you could have cast people that had names, any name, just a name at all, is just the disruptor in you. So I'm probably one of many people that have benefited from that part of you. And you have, I think, and I know, suffered because of it. You have,
sure,
you have, you have gone through a lot because of it. Not because of me personally, but just that part of you that,
yeah.
yeah, for whatever reason, you've had some hurdles.
Well, what are we without our hurdles? I think they define me, and that's why if the definition is I'm a disruptor, then it's now it's a badge of honor.
Amen.
Like in a world of uh, you know, conformists, I just don't belong in it, you know? I've never belonged anywhere. So
Yeah.
it's natural that I'm a disruptor,
You
but it
belong on a set. I
huh?
know that. You belong on a set.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
It's because most times it's organized chaos,
Yeah.
and somehow chaos feels good. I love
Yeah.
to figure things out, and if I can take chaos and make sense of it, and then what if we actually made something that looks like great art? I'm there, you know. And part of being a disruptor is listening to your gut, and this is why it wasn't a risk casting you. And I say this all the time, like facetiously. I'm like, I knew she was a star before everybody knew she was a star. So it's listening to your gut. And most people are scared to make choices based on their instincts.
Yeah. Most
Because what
people
if,
bake, yeah, they bake choices, they make choices with the the idea that if something goes wrong, I'll be able to justify this.
yeah, and I
You don't
can't
do
be
that.
like that. Nope. Nope. And I knew when you walked into that room, and at that point we had auditioned a lot of people. We'd seen a lot of people, and like you walked into that room, and my gut was like, she's the one. And it's and time has proven me right. Miss Tony winner, Grammy winner, maybe soon to be Emmy winner. Like I was right. So part of I like being right. You know?
You do
And-
like me, right? I want to say two things. The first thing I want to say is, or because it just reminded me of a conversation, we fell in love like when we worked together. I mean, I just felt like it was like, I even married my husband because I wanted somebody to be a good person for this little threesome we had, me, you, and Michael. I was like, oh my God, Alexis Johnson will be perfect for us. Because we used to stay up all night just
uh,
like talking and, figuring out the world in our 20s.
I
And
know.
I remember this moment, and Michael will always be asleep on the couch because he was trying to hang. And that sweet man, he would never leave us. He would always be like, they're still talking. But I remember this realization we had together. Maybe you had it, probably. I just remember this idea about what success looks like
Right.
for people that love the Lord,
Hmm.
and having to be open to the idea that it most likely, everything we could read about like the way the world works
Yeah.
spiritually, to assume that success is going to look for us like
Yeah.
it looks to the world would be to, I think, not understand a God that was as big as ours was or is. I mean, we spent all this time just marveling over how, with not knowing anything, but
Yeah.
trying to be open to the fact that our lives could and should look very different than any template for success that the world would have. And it's interesting to look back so many decades later and to see that our lives are different than, I mean, what we might have thought they would be, in really wonderful ways, and in you know, wonderful, you know, what ways that make you wonder for other reasons. Like, it's kind of, it's interesting.
Well, maybe on the surface, people can look at us and say we're successful. Um, but it's not, I don't think it's because of our careers necessarily. And most times I get more compliments on my kids,
Yeah, amen.
or, hey, are you Luke Swanson's mom?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess so, you know? It's
Or
like,
Cole Swanson's mom, or Kenji
or,
Swanson's mom, or
or
Julia Swanson's mom.
yeah,
Any of
it's
them, all your kids, all your kids.
and I'm the one where I never anticipated having kids. All I wanted to do was make movies. And so I look at my life as a movie director as a failure. And I say that with a smile because I'm nowhere that I thought I should be, right? And then I look at the choices I thought I did not make. Like I didn't choose to have 4 kids. They just showed up, right?
It just showed up. There's
They,
like a stork dropped them off in your backyard. You did
they
nothing.
just showed up,
You
right?
did nothing to be responsible for having it.
So that being said, now looking back, one of the greatest miracles I think we walked through was making this movie together, with my 4 kids,
Oh my God. All
right?
of them. They all
And
came.
and with my husband of 30 plus years,
Let's just stop right there. Slow clap for Michael Swanson.
who has
Saved us all many times.
and stood in front of me, behind me, beside me, and no matter how crazy the idea is, he was like, "Okay, I'm there."
Amen. Not only
So
I'm there, I'm going to make sure we can
we
do
win
this.
and we succeed.
We can do this. We are going to do this.
So on the surface, just career wise, maybe it's not the success that I anticipated when I graduated from NYU Film School, but by every other measure that matters, it's I just give pause to the just the benefit to be a beneficiaries of God's grace.
Amen.
And that I'm constantly being reminded of that, from day to day. And I got to just make a movie.
I want to stop because I just wanted to talk about that because I have a documentary coming out that you're going to come to the world premiere of at the Tribeca Film Festival on June 15th, about my road to having kids and trying to balance that between, this just the journey of trying to have a career and trying to have children, and that window of time specifically for an actor.
Yeah.
This kind of, what they will tell you is this one window of time that's your time to
Right.
make it, and it being the same window of time you're supposed to be having these kids.
Yeah.
And you started before me, well before me, because you, quiet as it was kept, you were pregnant you were pregnant doing your first big movie. You were pregnant doing All About You. You didn't tell me till we finished filming that Cole Swanson was on the set
That's
the
right.
entire time.
Yes.
What a miracle. So I've watched you, I've gotten to listen to you, first of all, have these phenomenal children, and then manage, because you don't phone it in. Like,
Right.
you just, I mean, as an example, you breastfeed till they're about 13 years old.
Yes.
Talk about your testimony, because I know I was on the phone with you for many years as a very frustrated while you were raising all of those young children, feeling like you were not going to have the career that you wanted. And you say, my career isn't what I thought it was going to be, but your career is A, awesome, and B, just getting started. So you don't know what you're going to do.
That's
so
right.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the hard days for all of the people that are trying to figure out how, well, if I should try, if I want to be a director, does that mean I shouldn't try? Should I not get married and have children? Because they are going to compete.
Yeah.
Or if I want to be an actor, or if I want to be a professional of any sort. And
Yeah.
how does it feel in the throw of it when it feels like life is passing you by while you're sitting at home,
Yeah.
you know, in romper room, just talk a
Right.
little bit about that experience.
Well, sometimes think about that, and I feel sorry for you for having been on the other side of me,
Why?
moaning and crying and whining, and then
Because I'm just trying to have kids. I'm like, can
true.
I have a kid? And you're like, these kids.
I know, but ironically, but you were also uh starting on Broadway. Like your career just never stopped, right? And part of my pain was that like we started out together, and like I had to take a detour, you know, and then I just felt like
Detour that I wanted to take.
isn't that crazy?
Isn't it
And
crazy?
I felt like God gave me a 15-year timeout, and I was pouting about it.
But
But
never not loving on your kids.
never. Like
Yeah.
they're the reason why I'm healed and whole in many ways, you know, and it's like I didn't know that, but God knew. Like
Yeah.
you need to go down this path so you can be healthier when you're back on this path.
Right.
And now I'm walking in that.
Yeah.
And you're trying to have kids while, you know, juggling your career. And I remember like and I don't know how deeply you talk about your
You'll find out because I don't
okay.
not say anything.
Okay, but I just remember like at a very hard time in your life. Um I just found out I was pregnant with Luke, and I
Oh.
just could not bring myself to tell you.
Oh
I was
my
like
goodness.
I just felt like the pain that you were walking in,
Yeah.
and I was like, ain't no way in the world I'm gonna tell Renee I'm pregnant again, you know?
My
And
third godchild.
that's right. Um,
Yeah,
it-
I had a lot of god kids and nieces and a lot of other people's children that I still call my own while I was on the road to my own. And that was a challenging time. And there were some moments where I was like, but never not celebrating my all of everyone
it-
else's children
yeah, I always
and
felt that.
always just wondering, what my story was going to be. And it feels so wonderful to be able to talk about it from the vantage point of two children and an amazing husband of my own in the other room. And but I do think it's important to share how long the chapters are in your life, how dark, how confusing the chapters are in your life when you're trying to have both and it feels impossible.
Yeah,
It feels impossible to say. It almost feels absurdly wrong to have dreamt of having both a family
yeah,
and a career.
yeah,
I also will say that like an embrace of a bit of chaos is the only way to do both of those things.
yes,
And I have to say, I don't think this is a woman's conversation because
absolutely.
I talk alone, because I talk to men all the time who have decided to not try because they don't feel like they're there in their life yet to
Yeah,
be a father or a husband.
yeah,
I'm like, who told, when did this lie happen? Because our grandparents and parents just fell in love and got married and they knew that we'll do it together. And
and they,
somehow or another, between then and now, people have decided that somehow or another, we have to have everything figured out before we risk.
yeah.
It's a lie.
I was blessed to have a Michael Swanson in my life. I always say there would be no Christine Swanson without a Michael Swanson, who was an amazing, amazing father.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I would have had 4 kids
Yeah.
if he wasn't the kind of father he was.
And be working again at the level that you're working if he wasn't the cheerleader he is
It,
and and as empowering in your family as he is.
absolutely. So we can't do what we do without the support system that we have.
But yeah, but let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about because it ain't just being married. It's
Okay.
but I mean, let's talk about being married to a person that isn't threatened
Mm.
by a woman with a very big dream that is going to blow potentially your family off course. Can we? I know we can't do all day, but to talk about because it's not like the risks that you took all worked out.
True.
Talk about some of the hard times.
Well, certainly we took some gambles, um it's part economy, and there was a time where we were actually homeless for uh, a year or
With how
so.
many kids
4 kids,
and how old were they? The
from
oldest was,
2 to 10.
let's just stop there. From 2 to 10 year old, two year old to 10 years old.
Yeah,
4 little children, you and Michael,
yeah.
and you are what? Actually, you left LA for a minute.
We left LA, went to Charlotte for a little bit, and then in '08, when the economy crashed, we had to come back to LA, mainly
Right.
because the only business and industry we knew was the one that we work in.
Yeah.
And we came back to LA with no place to live and no prospects for a proper place to live for a family of 6. And it was scary. We took a road trip from Charlotte to LA, and maybe at the time we had just enough gas money to start the road trip. And we mapped it out in such a way that everywhere we stopped, we found someone that we knew and we stayed.
Mm, amen.
And then every place that we stayed, somehow they were like, they would, here's some money for gas, right? And so that money, fed the kids and then got us to our next location. And we were able to stay with friends and family, and as we left, here's some money for gas. And then we landed in one location, and we stayed with some friends and family. And for some reason, well, these were my really wealthy friends, and they were like, here's some money for gas. And when we looked at it, it was like $2,000. And we were like, oh my gosh, we could make it all the way to LA with this $2,000. And just that
Angels.
journey of, I don't know, just ignorance, naivete.
No.
Well,
Can I just say what
go
I
ahead.
want people to know about you that I find so interesting? Because I that story's fascinating and people should know it. And also if they could know, I don't want to give them your address, but clearly it worked out.
Right.
You can look at any one of your kids or your husband and see, or you, and see that it worked out gloriously. But what's most interesting to me about that time of your life is that this spirit that you have, it was exactly the same in that point that might have just knocked somebody out, killed a marriage.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Killed every dream. And I remember you in that season of your life driving by houses in the neighborhood you actually live in now and
hmm.
claiming them, huge houses, and you guys claiming them as your own with nothing, but
Sure.
just your Faith Film Works, the name of your production company, has always been that way. It's a ridiculously absurd from the outside looking in
Right.
amount of faith, but it's so signature to who the two of you are,
Right.
that you and exactly, it's like it's actually the opposite of what we were talking about when we started our journey, thinking like, oh, success has to look this way.
That's right.
We have to be prepared for success to look this way if we're
Right.
going to be in the face of everyone else having huge amazing success in the
Mm,
ways that the world recognizes. We have to prepare to look like failures.
that's
And
right.
but in reality it was a bit more than that. When I look at your life, it was, even when we look like failures
Mm,
to the rest of the world, we see ourselves as successful. We see,
victorious. Yeah.
and that we see ourselves as victorious. And that's why you guys would roll into LA with your last couple $100 probably on your road trip, and would drive by these mansions in this community that you live in. And literally you just had, didn't you buy an address plate?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Feel like I'm now remembering,
That's
you crazy girl bought an address
I
plate
did.
for a house, some mansion that wasn't even for sale, and you didn't have no money. You
Oh
are
my God.
crazy.
Right.
You are crazy in the most
Yes.
amazing ways.
A little bit crazy, right?
A little
I
bit.
I remember the house that we do live in. We lived around the corner, like in a tiny 700 square foot studio, but we were surrounded by streets full of mansions. And I would just walk my kids in the stroller, and there was a house, and I looked at it, and I was like, that is a great house to live in, you know? And I'd walk by that house all the time. And fast forward from that time, maybe 15 years later, we live in that very same house.
Praise
It's
God.
almost like it was being foreshadowed, and now that we live in it. And listen, and I want to be very clear because I'm not a big proponent of name it and claim it. But in the most fundamental ways, there were seeds of faith planted that we just lived by and stood by. And a lot of times
And yeah, continue to.
we do. And it's like now I'm so old, like I don't want the sexy things. I don't care as much. Um, but I do want to continue living in a way where I have to rely on some things that are bigger than myself, you know? Because
Yeah.
left to my own devices, remember when we were younger and we
Yeah.
just thought we was gonna blow up, and like
I
uh
didn't. I wasn't sure. I didn't know.
well, you're the one who blew up then,
I don't know.
maybe it,
I should say it's not that I didn't think. I did always. I grew up thinking. I did definitely as a child. I thought for sure I was going to be a huge star. I thought that for sure. But by the time I was in my 20s, I was like, maybe people have been lying to me.
right.
Maybe they've been lying because you get to LA, you're like, everybody's beautiful, everybody's
Right.
talented, everybody's parents told them they could be whatever they wanted to be. How is this going to happen for me? That's kind of what you think for a minute.
Well, there's always
I was always what the difference between you and I is I was always like I think trying to keep my expectations low, and
mm-hmm,
you were always like just claiming the stars, claiming
right.
the stars.
Well, I think in many ways then opposites attracted.
Yeah, I know.
Because and again, that's just how I'm wired. Like,
We're me and you are Reese's peanut butter cups. We are chocolate and peanut butter girl.
wait,
We are two.
which is
Me
what?
and you. Me and you. You could be chocolate or peanut butter. I don't know which. You can be whichever one. They're
Right.
both good, and when you put them together, it's even better. I feel like we are very different and
Yeah.
very. I do think. I think the things your strengths complement me
Mm.
tremendously.
And how do
You
your
know,
strengths compliment me?
that's a good question. I'm not sure. I probably slow you down. I no. I mean, I think that I think I'm a perfectionist,
Uh-huh.
and to a to a fault. You know what I mean. I feel like I just want. You know what I mean. I'm like, but let's work really hard. We got to make it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Like I'm like, let's get it right. Let's get
Right.
it right. And you are like, let's just do it.
Right.
Right. And so
Right.
I think the combination is powerful because
Yeah.
I think if we can get along and make it happen together,
Yeah.
we actually, because I'm not gonna make something because I'm gonna be trying to make it perfect, and you
Yeah.
might just make something, just make it. I just made it. I made it. It's made. Now let me
Right.
make something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
I think that together, we. I think it's magical. I do. I think it's magical. I think we make really great things together, and we should, hopefully God blesses us to do it a million times. That's what I think.
I think you bring the quality control, right?
I try. I
And I'm
try.
like, okay,
Make
all right,
sure if you want
we'll
to.
try it this way, you know?
Yeah. All right. We'll do it again. I
But
thought it was great, but let's do it again because Renee wants to do it again.
well, and uh, there's
That's
value in your point of view and perspective, and I've grown to appreciate that. I think you remember you were slightly worried, like, are you gonna listen to me? If I have notes, like, are you gonna implement them? And I'm thinking, like, what
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
question is that? Like, because um I'm hardcore wired for collaboration. This is why I find myself in this medium, You know what I mean? This is why I
Yeah.
play basketball, not tennis.
Yeah.
You know, I love the team sport,
Yeah.
you know, and I love what, you know, you just bounce off other people, and it's just like magic is unfolding and everybody is participating, you know?
Yeah. You love to give people, you love to use your power to create opportunities for other people to stand in their gifts. That's part of being a director. That's why you won't just be a writer. That's why you want to be a director, I think. Because you could just be a writer, but you don't want to do that. You want to actually,
Right.
you're like, okay, I'll write it so we can do it. But I want to be in a situation where I can be like, let people operate in their gifts in ways that are really magnificent. That's I think that's your joy.
It's I would never get tired of doing it,
Yeah.
you know? I love to see the possibilities in everybody, you know? But I love discovering people,
Yeah, you do.
you know, and I'm like, it's that gut. I feel something. I'm like, oh my gosh, the world needs to see this, you
Yes.
know, and the just chasing after that is truly a high, you know. And you just want to do it over and over and over again. And what's stopping us, Renee, from doing that?
Money.
Yeah, and even
You get
then,
a couple $1 million every 2 years.
well, let's make that pact because
Yeah.
I just don't know if you want to work in that low budget level again.
I'm fine with it. Let's just get a
Okay.
script, girl. Come on, let's get the script right.
All
Let's
right.
get the script right.
We can do that, and then
No, I think you guys, there's no, yeah, you don't make, I don't, you don't make low budget movies. I don't, Albany Road doesn't feel like, yeah, that you never, you have to marvel always at what you've, what the cost was for what you created,
sure,
because
sure.
it's always higher than that. It's never defined by that.
Yeah.
And it's just a joy. And I love, I mean, I'm so grateful that we get to live in the same time,
Mm,
and we get to be sisters, and we get to, we've gotten to be each other's godmothers for each other's children, and we get to know and love each other's husbands, and we get to dream together, and hold each other's hands when things aren't going right. And yes, for the opportunity to have created some things that I'm so tremendously proud of together, and I do hope we get to do more. And I believe, let's just name it and claim it, even though we don't believe in naming and claiming.
per se, but
More,
let's
more, more, more.
we will walk it out in faith and just get ready to do what God assigns us to do next. Is how I
Well,
look at it.
congratulations.
Thank you, and same to you on two movies. What's the title of your documentary?
The title of the documentary is called Satisfied.
Oh, of course.
Uh, I, I I didn't pick it, but there we go.
Right,
But it works. It's even though I'm more than satisfied, I'm beyond satisfied
right,
for the gift. It's about, like I said, it's about that journey between trying to have a career and trying to have a family. It's really
right.
against the backdrop of Hamilton when I was a part of I had the great opportunity to give birth to that show with that great group of people. And at the same
Yeah,
time, I had young babies
yeah,
and the challenge of it. And really, that's just an opportunity to show the whole journey of
yeah.
trying to figure out how to be a mother in that time. And so, yeah, that's what the documentary is about. And then we have the movie All About You and Albany Road, which is what we just did together. That's wonderful. And it's showing at the Miami Film Festival
At ABFF,
at ABFF
it, well, we won't
Friday, right?
in the future, and then but mainly it's gonna come out this holiday season in
Amen.
theaters. Talk
Amen.
about name and claim it, but it's
And
gonna
it was at this film festival.
yes
Talk about the experience of showing it at the film festival.
at Ebert Fest.
Yeah.
So here's a really funny thing is that Albany Road is a primarily all Black cast film, but we have surprising spurts of diversity. Um, and I'm sitting there thinking like, this is an auditorium full of 1,000 white people. What in the world? have I gotten myself into? And I did really have a moment where I was just like, I don't know how this is gonna play out, right? And so I sat in the theater, watching the audience go on this journey. And long story short, we got 2 standing ovations from 1,000 white people in Champaign, Illinois.
Wonderful.
And the thing that God told me was, you try to limit this as a Black movie, and I'm gonna show you why it's not. And just the feedback and the comments that we got from the audience just really showed that this was a universal story that has the ability to touch the hearts of everybody. And to experience that and knowing what it took to put this little miracle of a movie together, and then watching it take off, um, and watching audiences embrace it in the way that they have, um, has been like a life-changing experience for me.
Mm.
And and even though I've done a lot of things where I'm like, well, I did this, so there's nothing I can't do. I truly feel like having done this film, this little miracle with my leading actress for my first feature film almost 25 years ago, it's like, who could have written this but
Yeah.
God,
Amen.
right?
Right. So we got to believe all the way.
Yes. So I think this is God's hug to us and to what's possible when I think when we uh wait on him. Wait on him. It's not always up to our time frame and time schedule. It's really up to God, and I'm a testament to that because
Yeah.
I never saw this thing coming, even though I willed it in my spirit.
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
anyway, I can't wait till we do our Japan story, but shh, we'll work on that. Okay.
Yes, we will.
All right.
Hard.
All right. Thank you,
I love you
Renee and Miss
dearly.
Goldsberry. Thank you. I love you too. All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.